All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sarah Centrella Show. And today I have an amazing guest for you today who is all about leadership and teaching us how to be the best possible leader that we can be, whether it is in corporate, whether it is leader of your own company, if you're an entrepreneur. And so we're going to really dig into what it takes to be a leader, but also something that I'm super passionate about, which is that work-life harmony. Is balance possible? And Andre Young is my guest today, and he is all the expert in all of those things. So we're going to get into it today. Welcome to the show, Andre. Thanks so much for being here.
Sarah, thank you for having me. It's an honor. You guys listening, hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you.
Yeah, they're about to even have a better one with all this knowledge they're about to drop. So we want to get right into it. But before we do that on this show, I'm so fascinated by people's stories and, you know, how they got to be the success that they are today and in the ability to share their knowledge and their wisdom. So can you tell us just a little bit about your backstory, how you got to where you are today?
Sure. The funny part is I didn't want to do any of this. I didn't want to speak and I didn't want to write. And now I can't stop writing and I can't shut up and they pay me for it. So,
right.
Long story short, I was a mental health therapist for 19 years. I thought I would retire from doing it. How I got into leadership and work-life harmony, you would think it's because what I'm about to share, but it's not. I burnt out of a job. I was at one point a very great employee, one of the best, says me. But then I became the worst. I had burnt out of a job. I no longer enjoyed it. The leadership changes, where we were going. And I tell people all the time, I was right about every single thing that I said. But I was very wrong about how often I said it, who I said it to, and how I disconnected. And people would think that's how I got there, but the real reason is I went through a divorce. So during that time, I went through a divorce and I chose, going through a very difficult time emotionally, financially, to wake up and look at myself and evaluate myself. So I looked at everything with eyes wide open. What am I doing great? What am I doing bad? What do I need to change? What do I want to change? And in that moment, I said I wanted to start a social club, and it was for men. And I just wanted people to go home better than when they came. And that just kept growing out of my living room, and then conferences. And then we had a youth division and women's division. And I then no longer wanted to chase people. I wanted to go to where the people already are. And that was at work and at school and on their phones. So when I took this to companies first, I started off very locally. I went to small companies. Hey, let me do this for you. And they said, well, relationship growth, what we were just talking about, relationship growth and personal development. Okay, that's good. That's nice. But what does that do for us?
Right. They're like, how does that integrate with you? Why would I pay for it? Yeah.
Right. So then I said, oh, you want leadership. And I went and reviewed everything that I had put out content-wise. And I said, oh my goodness, Sarah, I was already talking about leadership. I just never said the word.
Yeah.
I added the word to it and boom, it took off. And now I get to go into companies worldwide and, meet with their people and make an impact, leader and frontline, because that's really, really huge.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, the first thing that I want to kind of dig into a little bit more before we kind of get into the steps of leadership is you said something really key, which was when you went through a hard time, you paused and you were self-reflective, right? Like you took the time to be self-aware and to say, what am I doing well? What am I totally failing at? All of that. Can you talk a little bit more about that? And I'm sure kind of in your coaching, you might have some tips on that too, because I think that's such a huge thing. So many people are not self-aware, maybe don't even know they're not self-aware.
Absolutely. And I get more and more companies reaching out to me to do what I call a leader's accountability, because their leaders or employees, they want to be so great, they don't know how to be accountable. And when I went through that time, I call it eyes wide open. You've got to sit back and reflect on yourself and say, okay, no, I call it the three bullies: no minimizing, rationalizing, and justifying.
Ooh,
Because you do something wrong, or it's a breakup, you get cheated on, you get fired, your boss has a tough conversation with you. I don't care what it is. Do not minimize, well, I only, or I just.
yeah.
That's not leadership language. Leaders don't use that type of language. And then don't justify it away. Well, I did this because, or if you do that, I do that. Leaders don't do tit for tat. I don't care what somebody did to you. You live right. So when the job, the relationship works, you had a part in it. You can pat yourself on the back for being a part of that. And if it doesn't, you can put your head on the pillow in peace, knowing you did everything you could do, because peace is going to matter in the future.
Yeah.
And then you can't rationalize it away and blame other people or come up with any good reason of what, because I can come up with good reasons why I've done every single bad thing in my life.
Right. Like I was rationalizing it very well when I made that decision.
Right. And so then after we do that, now we got to step back, and I rate myself. I do it once a month. I call it Get My Life Together Saturday.
Ooh, people, hello, take notes.
So I get a cup of coffee. You could do it over a cigar, drink, wine, whatever your thing is. And I rate myself as a person, as a parent, as a partner, and as a professional.
Wow.
And if you have multiple kids, I have 4, you're going to have 4 different ratings. You can get even more personal and say, as a son, as a brother, a daughter, whatever roles that's significant to you. Now, here's the trick. This is a couple steps. Number 1, on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you rating yourself? Just be honest. What are you rating yourself? Don't think about it. The first number, put it down. Step number 2, what do you believe would take you up a number or 2? So if you're a 10 already, what does it take to be a 12? If you're a 3, I've seen somebody sit here in -3.
Yeah.
What does it take to get to that -1 then? It doesn't matter. What does it take? Now, step number 3, final step. When you sit back and look at those numbers, that's great. What does that number mean to you? Be good to yourself, because even if you're a -3, you're not a -4 or 5.
Right. Yeah. Hey, growth. We'll take it. Any growth.
We'll take it. We'll take growth. The positive is you have an answer to what you think would make you better. The concern is it's not enough, because you're not doing a good enough marriage. If I do what I think would move me up a number or 2, but you need something different,
Right.
I'm going to ease my way into a professional or personal temper tantrum of, look how much I'm doing for Sarah. I'm doing this and this. I'm only doing what I think would move up a number or 2. Am I leader enough to ask you, Sarah, that's my wife's name too.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Oh, easy.
Am I leader enough to say, Sarah, I want to be great.
Right.
What is it that you need most from me right now?
That right there is everything, because the difference between us assuming this is what I need to do, even if you're trying really hard to pay attention, you're trying to be observant, you're trying to listen, we're only going to gather so much data. We could gather all of it and be completely off base. So having the openness, I guess, and being humble enough to say, hey, this is kind of what I'm coming up with. Am I off base? What do you need? What did I miss on this list?
Right.
And I think like being open and engaging in that way, where you really do want the feedback and you really do want to grow, in any person that isn't completely, a total tool, they're going to be like, wow, that's really cool.
But you know what?
That for you,
I'm going to tell you, most people aren't going to respond like that, though. Every single time that I have done it, every time I've taught my son to do it with his coaches, every time I've taught employees to do it with leaders, this is what really happens. You ready?
Just come with a bigger list.
Hey, I want to be great here at the company. Hey, I want to be a great husband or wife to you. What do you need most from me right now? That most typical response is, oh, no, just keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, interesting.
Most leaders, husbands, wives, kids will say that. I've seen it happen 1,000 times. And we have to understand, get into the psychology of it, why they say that.
Yeah.
Number 1, the fact that you were sitting there coming up with a list and thinking how you were going to improve. Do you know how rare that is? Not everybody's doing that.
It probably totally throws them off. They're like,
right.
No, blank space.
This is old things to you already. It's so new to him when you hit them with it. They weren't thinking about it. Maybe
Right.
they don't know, maybe they don't like confrontation, so they think it's going to be met with some
Yeah.
adversity. Maybe they had to pee and you interrupted them and they were on
Right.
their way to the bathroom. Maybe they're hangry right now and now is not the best time. You don't know what's happening in their world. So we have to get better at leading it and saying, hey, I appreciate you saying everything's good. I really want to know. Now, I know I caught you off guard. Is that if I'm in the office, if I'm in business, is there a better time? I know I'm available Thursday at 3, Monday at 1. Does that work for you?
Yeah. A lot of times I'll say, you know what, like, do you want to or think about it? Not even do you want to think about it, but like, can you think about this and can we come back to this conversation in a couple days? Like, I know it's kind of
Absolutely.
blue, but like, I'm
I
really
share it
trying
with
to
my
grow.
wife. Yeah, I share it with my wife. Hey, I'm going to ask you again in a couple days because I
Yeah.
know if we got in an argument right now, you would have a kitchen sink to throw at me.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm going to ask you again at the end of the week. Not can we? I'm going to come to you at the end of the week. If you have an answer, I want to hear it. If you don't, and it's still all good, then we're good.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys, like, all of that is such gold. What I'm discovering, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, but especially the last like 5 years, people don't know how to communicate. Like, I'm
Mm.
just like, what happened to people? Like, did we all just become robots? Like, basic stuff. We used to be able to communicate. Now Facebook has all of the answers that you can respond in a comment. All you have to do is like, what the hell is going on? I don't have to
Yeah.
think. I don't have to like be present. I don't have to be conscious. And so I think people are just getting worse and worse and worse at this. And
Yes.
so I really want each of you listening, like, take accountability. You might not even know how much worse you've gotten at this over the last couple of years, but I think we all really have. And those tips that you just gave about like how I become self-aware, how I check myself. Like, I
Mhm.
might be going through the world going, hey, I'm so self-aware. Hey, I'm listening to all my podcasts. I know all my shit. Like, do you?
Well,
Like,
and a lot of times,
practicing it?
here's the other danger. We might be listening to it and not applying it fully.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's the other danger, and I am divorced and remarried. And here is the biggest mistake I made in my last relationship. I was so busy listening to that stuff and achieving things and growing, I let my evolution elevate my ego.
Ah,
So you're listening to all of these podcasts and self-help and positive growth and all of that stuff. That does not mean that your partner is.
right. Exactly.
It doesn't mean that your mom and dad aren't. So when you go back to to your family, you're like, ugh. Like, we have to refrain from letting our evolution elevate our ego. Like, everybody's allowed to be at the level that they're at. So how do you either bring them up, but not everybody want to come up. Not everybody's ready to come up. So how
How
do
do you
you
meet them?
become accepting and get intentional about your circle at the same time?
Yeah, and learn how to meet people where they are. I think that that is such a amazing skill. I'm sure leaders need it, but I think everybody honestly really needs it too. So I know you have two best-selling books on leadership. You do a lot of stuff on leadership. So I really wanted to dive in to one of the things that I know you're an expert at, and your book, The 7 Languages of Leaders.
Mm.
My audience probably knows that I've been like really getting in the rabbit hole of the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
I kind of thought I knew what they were. And then I was like, oh, let me educate myself. Wow, I was way off base. I had no idea. And then I really got thinking, like, why aren't they using this in a work environment?
Mm.
Maybe
Mm.
physical touch isn't the one to use, but there's still like there's integration there. There's so much power that you have as a human being, understanding what you need. And I love that you kind of translated some of this, or maybe it isn't a crossover, but I wanted to talk about like, what are the 7
No, sure.
languages of leaders? And yeah,
Sure.
how do you know?
Well, this is my baby. I remember writing this, and in the middle of writing, I stopped and started teaching it. And then
Mm,
I went back to write it and finish the book. Like, every now and then, as an author, you know that you've done
you're onto
something
something.
big. Yeah. So here's what I will say before I share the 7 languages. The 5 love languages do not cross over
Yeah,
to
I
corporate.
mean, most of them don't.
Or task-based things. For example, those of you who are listening and do not know the 5 love languages, I will share it to you in 30 seconds. Gary Chapman, he wrote the heck out of this. Gary, if you're listening, you are phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. You can get the abridged version tonight, read it in 76 pages, easy. Look, physical touch, gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, acts of service. He says the way, we all have a top 2.
Right.
And our favorite top 2 is not only the way we give love, but also the way we like receiving it.
Right.
Here's how it doesn't apply to task-based things or within companies and organizations. My top 2 love languages are physical touch and quality time.
Yeah. Can't really cross those over too much.
In corporate, I better not be physically touching on nobody.
Exactly.
Okay. My wife don't play that.
Out.
Now, there are some huggers out there and some companies that operate like family. I put quotes around that. Quality time in corporate. I love quality time. I never wanted to see my boss. Leave me alone. Let me do what I need to do. So they don't always apply. Right. Now, here's the 7. I'll say them slowly so you can write them down. If you're listening, do not get in an accident if you're driving.
Yep, they'll be in the notes, guys.
Number 1 is goodie time. I'll go back through, but goodie time, number 1. Number 2 is quality minutes. Number 3 is recognition and affirmation. Number 4 is knowledge and or, that is very big, and or advancement. Next is incentives, then flexibility, and lastly, respect.
Oh, I love those. Oh my God. I don't even know where to start. Like, yeah, I guess we'll start from the top. So goodies, what are you talking about here?
Goodie time is that employee, and you know, whether you're a leader or not, leaders have these languages too. It's important because this works when leaders speak it to employees, but employees also speak it to leaders, okay? Right. Goodie time is that employee or leader that is highly influenced, highly impacted by that goodie time, that pizza day, that hoagie day, those snacks on your desk, sausage day, hoagie day, all of that stuff. Goodies. Yeah,
vacation or like winning the trip or whatever. Like,
oh no, that's coming. So
that's coming. Okay,
just straight goodies. I joke. I have never in my life intentionally bought a Nestle's Crunch bar. But Sarah, if I walk into your office and it's on your desk, you can't get me out your office. I will eat them all. I don't know why. It's
magic. Is your thing. Okay.
So quality minutes. There are some employees that are highly inspired and impacted by having a few minutes of conversation with the boss that has nothing to do with work. Yeah. Non-work related conversation. And with the amount of remote and hybrid work that we're doing, where all you see your people is on that hourly scheduled Zoom call or in emails, we're the person who would circle quality minutes really missing it.
For sure. And there's almost no way, well, maybe you can tell us how to do it, but there is almost no way to do it the way we used to, right? You could run into your boss like in the kitchen and while you're both having coffee and they could ask you about your life and all of a sudden you feel great. Like, oh, he's asking me about, my life. I have a life, like, am I human? Like,
and through COVID with a lot of the Zoom calls, that really helped because it really made everybody care about everybody's life. And you got to see their husband walk by, their dog bark or whomever, and their kids. Number 3 is recognition and affirmation. The employee leader that loves that pat on the back. Hey, you did a great job with this. It really helped with that.
Yeah, that one, I want to pause really quick just because I think that one's huge. I think kind of in my rabbit hole of learning about the love languages, I learned that I was affirmations and I had no idea. I had gone through I thought I was like physical touch. I'm like, okay, cool, check box, whatever. And then it was a big part of me learning about myself, and so much of me made a lot more sense. I was like, oh, okay, I'm not crazy. Like, there's actually people who do like to be told that that was impactful or that was important or you did a good job or whatever. And that's the one that I was like, oh, I feel like a leader knowing that about their employee would just be so powerful.
Yes.
Because the person who needs that is not the person who's like, hey, win a trip. And, like, it's just
completely different.
Parks. And so if you're a leader and you're assuming if I throw a trip on the table, everyone's going to be fired up and they're going to go crush their goals to get the trip. you're leaving out all these people who like, that is not of interest to them at
Yeah.
all.
And I would say one is easier to do than the other, but that's not true because there's 5 different types of leaders. The intense leader, recognition and affirmation is hard to do because that's not who they are. That's not, so some of these are easy based on the type of leader that you are. But once you know and ask, you have to be willing to do and give. But you got to do and give these languages in a way that you don't resent them or the task.
Right.
So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the next one is knowledge and or advancement. Some people want knowledge and advancement. There's employees and leaders that want to know and grow. They want to move on and move up. There are other people. You have employees that are steady streams.
Yeah.
They are fine right where they are.
Right.
They don't want your promotion.
Everything. Yeah.
Right. They're like, I don't want your 200 emails a day. I don't want your raise. I'm fine. I'm good. I love what I'm doing right here. Stop trying to promote me.
Right.
So they want knowledge. They may want to be the best at where they are. So some is knowledge and or advancement. The next is incentives. That's the trips you're talking about, earning trips and company competitions. And
the competitive person is going to love that. Yeah.
My wife is that all day.
Yeah.
She's never not caught the carrot that dangled in front of her face.
And I'm the opposite. Like, I'm like, competitions just make me be like, oh, I'm going to watch and cheer from the sidelines. Like,
yeah, I do not care. Like, you cannot motivate me that way. I'm going to come in and give who I am every day.
Yeah.
The next is flexibility, and that's twofold. This is the employee that wants to either work in a flexible manner. COVID highlighted these people. They were like, I told you I didn't
never going back to work, never going back to the office.
Or they want their ideas implemented in the things. Okay. So they want their ideas to matter.
Yeah.
The last one is respect. And that one was the biggest one. And this is what I made a mistake on when I created this. I initially thought that everyone's top 2 languages would be respect and something else.
Interesting.
I've done this in a room of 2,000 people. I've done it in a room of 3 people. It's just not. So the person who wants respect, though, is asking for a lot more things. So when I asked employees, they said, 1, do I have the tools to be successful? My company can show me respect. I want to be the best machinist in the world, but the machine keeps breaking.
Right.
Do I have the training? Do I have the tools to be successful? Number 2, tone of voice. Ask, don't tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Across the board, people, that applies everywhere.
And as leaders, we can get to telling, but we don't start there. We don't have to start there. Here's the 2 that I added. Email etiquette. Yeah,
for real. Or like the total lack of boundaries, and it's just everywhere. Like, it's texting you at 10 at night, and like it's
that and exactly what you said. So it's the tone of voice in your email. I start every email with, hi Sarah, happy Tuesday. Hope everything is going great. The meet, hey, I look forward to hearing from you. Have an amazing day. It takes a little bit longer.
Right.
But the impact that it makes, you really change people's day, and you make your email more relevant than everybody else's.
Exactly, because you know how to communicate like a human.
The other part is time of day. There's way too many leaders saying, and they mean this when they say it, they really do mean it. Sarah, don't worry about this email I send at 10:30 at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to respond. I just want to get it off my head.
The passive aggressive is, I was up at 1, where were you?
Or I tell, one of the biggest culture killers is not your resident grouch. You don't have enough grouches typically to ruin a company. However, you do have enough inspired and motivators to ruin the company, because when all of them start responding at 1 a.m. on the weekends, on vacation, at the beach, everybody's looking like, as a leader, you can't sell your position.
You can't do that. Yeah. Oh my God.
A leader's job is to sell their position. So when you get promoted or move on or retire, somebody wants it. Why would anybody want it if you keep behaving this way?
Exactly. They're like, oh, no, thanks. Like, you get paid more than me, but Jesus, you have no freaking life. Like, no, I'm on that horse all the time, or on that soapbox, because when I'm trying to implement ways that you can have work-life harmony, or you can have joy outside of work and all that, like, it has to start from leadership and work its way down. Like, you cannot be taking your laptop and responding to emails on vacation because you just told every single person in your organization who gets emails from you that that is the expectation. You can tell them through your words till you're blue in the face that's not the expectation.
Yep.
But you showing that, like, it's just this passive aggressive dig that creates toxicity, I feel like, over time. Like, come on, guys.
And it's built up anxiety. That's
Yeah.
going to, like, what am I walking into? I didn't respond, but I know Sarah's up for that promotion and she did, I should. Or, it's just so much. And as soon as it rings, dings, or chimes, not to mention, and I joke with this, but this is not funny. You don't know the crazy person your employee might be sleeping next to at night.
Right.
Let my phone ring at 1 a.m.
Yep. And all of a sudden,
I certainly don't want my wife's phone. And this is
no kidding. Yeah.
God forbid a text.
Yeah.
Or how about recognition and affirmation? Can we do that respectfully? If you're going to affirm my wife, I prefer it over a work email during working hours. If you send that same thing in a text at 10:30, now all of a sudden me and my wife have an issue.
Well, and now all of a sudden, I'll be completely frank, because this has happened to me all the time when I was in corporate. Now all of a sudden you put her in a really weird position, because as soon as she knows as a woman that she's being contacted by anyone in authority outside of business hours, it just sends a different vibe, no matter if every single word you said was completely professional.
Oh.
If you stated it the same way, it just does. And from then on, she's going to feel weird about it.
I'll share a very personal story. This happened a few months ago. There was a new hire at my wife's job. They work together. We are laying in bed, 5:30 in the morning, her phone goes off and she's getting a text from him. Yeah. And I thought about it for a minute and I went to her and I said, hey, listen, me and you good.
Right.
But the message that's sending that another man can text my wife at 5:30 for a non-emergency is intrusive and unacceptable. So he may not know that, but I know he knows better. Yeah. So either you can handle it or I can handle it, but I'm comfortable either way. But this can't continue to happen. Now, what's a defined emergency? Whatever that emergency is, can we come up with a way that is sent in an email? Because if your email dings, that's way different from a text ding.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or, if you're in IT and the website's down, your phone ringing is different than getting a text. No. So that brings up a really good point, because this is tough, I think, in today's world, especially post-COVID, because there was just overnight, all the lines got blurred of what's work, what's not work. And then I think all the managers who used to think that remote employees didn't really work and they had to triple check on them, just got so much worse when everyone, it was just, I don't know. I feel like there was no boundaries anymore, and that companies are kind of in this place where I think they would like to get back to implementing them. What are some ways? First of all, let's start with the example that you just shared. Your wife could be like, I don't know what to do. This is awkward. Maybe he's the new boss. And you're just right. What he said was, I had to get ready for this meeting, and our meeting's at 8. Of course, the rationalizing stuff. But let's say that's the first time that happened. How does she communicate boundaries that doesn't feel like, oh, that just means that I'm less of a worker than someone else who is going to be absolutely 5 a.m. I'm getting up. I'm getting ready for that presentation. It's such a weird thing.
Well, and I will say, it's happened to me in the past as well, where somebody might text. So it's not just, my wife or me. It's
oh my God, it happens to me all the time in corporate. Are you kidding? From clients and from bosses.
Well, here's my 2 rules that I would follow. One, leaders accompany their problem with a suggested solution.
Yeah, that's huge.
Okay. And then it's the delivery of how to share an idea. I call it a leader's idea. So I'm going to come up with a solution. So in this regard, I come and say, hey, sir, ma'am, miss, whatever. I have an idea that I think can help with the text in the morning. I know you have things on your mind. I'm a team player. I want to get things done. I was thinking that we can turn this into an email first, because it's more appropriate for my relationship and it still allows me to do a great job here. I was wondering
Yeah.
what you like about that, or if there's anything you would fine tune.
Yeah. I love that. You know, being open, but also stating like what you need. I think when I was in corporate, one of the things that I communicated, and I communicated it in the interviewing process, you know, like if I was interviewing with a potential boss, I would straight up say, you know, like, hey, I have young kids. I'm a single mom. So from the time I leave the office until 9 at night, like no phone, like I'm offline. But before I go to bed, I will check the emails, I'll check the stuff to make sure if there was anything that I was missing that I can get back to it. So I think for me, it helped a lot to kind of like set a precedent, but I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that. And leaders have to also like take some accountability too, and start
Absolutely.
to really understand, like, just because this works for me as a leader and I've been doing this for 20 years and you know I can live on no sleep and my family, whatever, all that's burning to the ground anyway, I'll be fine, you know, like not everyone can, not
Well,
everyone can thrive like
and you also have to know who you're speaking with. Do you have a relationship where this is going to be accepted, listened to? Because if not, we may have to protect ourselves. And
that.
what I mean by that is who's somebody above them. And before it, this can get controversial. If I go to a leader, if I'm going to have a hard conversation with someone, okay, and whether this is my employee or a boss, one, I want to gauge the relationship. Do we have a relationship where we can have a tough conversation? If so, have it. Great. And then after you have it, you email, hey, I really appreciate your time with this idea. I'm excited to get this started. Thank you for making this a possibility. Have a great rest of your day. Now it's in black and white. You must protect yourself always on the back end. Now, if you do not have a great relationship with this person and you are fear-based about this, you need to protect yourself on the front end as well. And that means who's their leader.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to talk with you because I'm about to have a conversation with so-and-so regarding this. Here's my idea. What do you like about it? Is there anything you would fine tune? If you got to catch this. If you don't hear from me, we're good.
Yeah.
If you do, or they come to you, I want it to protect your blind side. I don't want you shocked about something. And I also don't want to get them in trouble.
Right. I honestly, like, I love that. I feel like that's perfectly fair on the employee side, and it's fair on the leadership side. I think it, especially for women, sometimes that can be really hard, you know, like we're kind of trained to just deal with it and, you know, not say anything about any of this stuff. And
Oh man.
one of the things that I'm so passionate about, especially with the employees that I coach and the women leaders that I coach, is just providing those skills. Like, how do I communicate my needs without being whiny, without being bitchy, without being emotional, all the shit that we
Or
always.
how about, I'll add one, because whiny, bitchy, and emotional is one side, but the other side is too nice. Don't be so nice you lose your relationship. Don't be so nice that you wind up getting walked over. And I have 2 daughters and 2 sons. One of the things that I share with all of them is don't be so busy being nice that you become a doormat. Nice is not, no, be kind,
Yeah.
but don't be nice all the
Right.
time.
And a lot of people think that to be nice, you have to say yes to everything.
Yes.
And
Nice will get you abused.
exactly. Kindness is what matters. I love that you
Mhm.
pointed out the difference, because they are different things. You don't, you know, nice is like everyone has to like me, so therefore I kind of almost have to be a doormat or have to say yes to everything. Being kind, you can have your boundaries, you can express yourself, you can, and people will respect you more, you know, like that's the crazy part.
Well,
You feel
here's
like,
the part too. When you protect yourself by not throwing that other individual under the bus, let's say you do go to a higher up. I know that's not for everybody, but I'm saying this is a strategy. You really think that that's the first time that leader ever heard that about that person?
exactly.
Chances are they've heard it
That's
30
been a
times.
problem for a while. Yeah. Yep,
Now
exactly.
you're just
And you could be
affirming
the
that it's
one
an
that
issue.
changes it. That's what I always tell people. It's like, it's one thing if you think someone is mistreating me and I just got to suck it up, or I just got to deal until I like get a better job, or until I get promoted out of this manager's whatever. Your silence is enabling that behavior, and think of all the other people who that person interacts with or will future, you know, be a boss or a leader over. that maybe could never say something. So,
Right.
like I think that has always helped me in the moment to make those tough decisions, or to, speak my truth when I needed to, because I was like, I know for a fact there's a lot of people who aren't going to be able to say something.
Absolutely. And some work, like I was just on the call today with a company, and some work does require a lot of off hour works. I mean, if you're doing work globally, time zones, high pressure crisis situations. So some of this is the way it is. My big challenge when I was doing crisis type of work was, and even with my friends, you know what I cannot stand? It's just me. It's not them. Group text. Why am I in this
I'm like
freaking
getting
chain?
45 texts when I like, I mean, oh God, I hate them. The only
So
people I can be on a group text with are my 3 kids. That's it.
right. So that same format that I gave is also helpful to get out of group text. Hey, I want to be a team player. This doesn't seem to be anything that I can add into, and it's also in the way of my day. So can I not be included in this, or I'm going to remove myself? If you need me,
Yeah.
this is what leaders fail to do a lot. I call it a leader's blueprint. We fail to give people the blueprint of how to come to us. All we say is come to us.
Boom.
What method do you want? So if you need me, when you need me, what's the method? Do you want them to Slack you, email you, text you, call you? Have we defined what an emergency is? When they do call, what's the first sentence you want them to say so you know it's serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then what information do you need? So don't let them just come and drop stuff off on you all willy-nilly. Look, or
Right.
not come to you at all. This is how you do it. This is what you say, and this is the information I need. Now I can get one text, get you
Oh,
information,
yeah.
and be done.
Yeah. And I love that for actual other types of relationships too, right? Just knowing, part of that is like, again, going back to the self-awareness thing, knowing how I operate better. And, there's always compromise in any type of relationship, whether it's romantic or, even friends or whatever, but knowing that, like, hey, if you text me, that's the best way to get a hold of me. Like, just text me, like, don't send me 4-minute voice memos where you're like yelling at traffic for 3.5 of those 4 minutes. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why am I listening to this? Like, I hate that. So, even being able to communicate, hey, this is the best way to work with me. What is the best way to work with you? Like, what do you prefer? Would you prefer one call a day? And that's like, your kryptonite, and you're good with that?
Yes.
You don't want 700 texts during the
Yep.
day?
I've asked my assistant, I said, listen, I email you about literally 30 times a day.
Right.
Do you want this clumped up in this, or do you prefer it the way it's been? She said, oh, I like them singularly, this or that, this
Yeah.
or that. I was like, great. But you have to be leader enough to ask. And once you're leader enough to ask, you have to be leader enough to listen.
Yeah, I love it. And it crosses over in everything. What are some characteristics of, I know you talk about the 5 different types of leaders, and I wanted you to kind of go into those just really, really quickly. And then I'm curious to see, do we need to be all 5? Can we be
Well,
one?
you know what?
Like, how do we,
Same way with the 7 languages, we all have a top 2.
Hmm.
Our top 2 changes from time to time. So if you give this to your people, you ask your people, then you have to choose to ask it every year, because the last thing you want to do is be speaking somebody's old language.
Right.
We also, out of the 7, have one that resonates with us the least. That's going to be the employee you struggle with the most. So I have to preface that before we get into the 5 types of leaders, because as a leader, we all have a top 2 of who we are too, but that might change over time.
Yeah, as you grow.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have the motivator type. This is the rah, high energy, we can do it, get out there and be somebody type of leader,
Yeah.
We have the example type. This is the leader that's the exact opposite. They are so quiet, but if you were a fly on the wall, all you would do is see them doing and getting their job done.
Doing the thing. Yeah.
Right? You have the visionary, big idea person. Okay. They propel everything forward. Then you have
a little chaotic too. Because
We'll
they're
talk
trying
about
to
that.
execute 10 ideas at once.
Right, we'll talk about that. Then you have the connector. This is know everybody, know what you have for Thanksgiving dinner, know your kids' names, the connector, the social butterfly. Lastly, you have the intense type. Gruff, don't say a lot, never know how they really feeling. You think like military, police, a lot of women. And I hear like, so work in a male dominated industry, or the more they move up, I need to be intense to get my
I have
respect.
to match. Yeah, I have to
Right.
match.
So there's pros and concerns. When you're the motivator, your energy and your passion is appreciated and respected by most.
Yeah.
But you have some people that can't stand your guts.
Right. The second you walk in a room, there's like, oh,
right. They think you're fake. They can't imagine that somebody could be this passionate about anything. They can't imagine. They think you're a brown noser.
Right.
So when you know you don't fit everybody's style, then you have to learn the 7.
Yeah.
So you could be the motivator, but I know that you like goody time. Okay, you'll tolerate my motivational skills because I'm giving you a donut.
Because you feel seen. You know that your needs are getting met too, or like, the way that you are motivated, or the way that you perform the best, I guess, is being noticed, recognized, and seen. Yeah.
So the next is the example. The example, the good part, everybody, they get their job done.
Right.
The concern is most people don't know how to approach the example. They don't want to approach the example because they feel like they're interrupting them. Gotcha. They're so busy with blinders on. There's people, they got blinders on. They're motivated and they got their blinders on. And when you get elevated to a position of leadership, you can't operate with blinders on. You want to do your job, but your job is also the people that are doing your old job.
Yeah, yeah.
So you got to be able to have your one-on-one meetings. All of these leaders need to have their one-on-one meetings, but when you have them, people will let you be you because they know they're going to have some intimate time with you.
Yeah.
Okay. The visionary, you mentioned it. I am a visionary. Okay. I started off as the motivator and the connector. Now I'm the visionary and the motivator. And the visionary has all of these ideas, but they hate the small steps of things.
Yes.
So they come up with
their mind from time to time.
so they come up with all of these big ideas.
Yeah.
But as the visionary, you have to know a little bit of what it takes to pull off the impossible so you can properly reward your team.
Boom. And also like like having an understanding of, yes, I have this great idea, but I told my team last week to do this other great idea, and coming at them like, no, put that aside and do that, like it can,
we have to check the bandwidth.
Chaos, right? It can totally add chaos.
So we have to check the bandwidth. I have great ideas, but I go to Nicole and Andrea and I say, do you have the bandwidth to do this? Now, can we do it now? Is it possible, or do we need to push it out? You tell me a schedule that's going to fit where you are and where we're at right now. And I got to take a chill, or I could say, scrap this and we need to do this.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between a good leader and one that is, just any of these things that you just mentioned. Like the good leader is always open to that feedback, or asking their team, surrounding themselves with the team that they trust enough to say, hey, this is a plan. A, help me flush it. What's the bandwidth look like? How are we going to execute it? Does that totally conflict with the other idea that I had two months ago, whatever? I love that.
And if we are doing everything because it really needs to be done, then it's putting a time limit on it. Yeah. So people will work and break their back for you as when you're a great leader, but they can't do it indefinitely.
Exactly.
So we're going to bust our hump until February 25th, and then we're done. We're good.
Yeah. And
people will rally for that. But if you just say, this is what we're doing, and then now I, as a leader, get addicted to the revenue generation, that's without adding people to the team and taking things off and helping them prioritize. That's not leadership.
Or listening to their language, or having any understanding of like what makes them feel valued to want to continue, to show up for you in that way. What Absolutely. Are the other, was there one more? Oh, the intent.
So you have the connector, and the intense is fun. So the connector, the great thing is everybody likes you. You like everybody. The problem is when it's time to have the tough conversation with your people, you might get stuck in the friend zone.
Oh,
So if I'm
I'm
the
the
connector,
top four. I'm a piece of those top four for sure.
oh yeah, this happened to me. I was promoted, and then my old coworker still wanted to joke around in the
Right.
same way around other people. And now it's embarrassing, but I did a poor job of saying this. Hey, Sarah, you got a second?
Yeah.
Hey, I know the promotion. I'm excited about it, but I am a little anxious about it. I know it's going to be weird for me, weird for you. Um, we're going to have some wins. You
Yeah.
do great work, and I'm going to be sure to celebrate. We're going to have our one-on-ones. We'll have our team meetings. As with anything, I might have to say something that's hard to hear or ask some questions, but it's all about us being great and going this way. Is that going to be okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Getting the level set.
Set the expectation, the affirmation, and it's, hey, I know we've joked like this in the past. When me and you are together, it's cool, but when
Yeah.
we're here, it's just not going to sit well,
Right.
you know.
I love that.
And really having that preface conversation up front. The last one is the intense. You have three options when you're in the intense. One, you could come in and say, listen, I'm intense with everybody. Don't take it personal. And if you do, come see me. We'll work it out. And you'd be surprised what consistency will allow. If you're an a-hole with everybody,
Right. Right.
people will expect that and be like, oh, that's just.
Yeah. How he is or how she is. Yeah.
But if you're different from day to day, people don't know what, so I'm this way with everybody. Come see me if, okay.
Yeah.
Option two, speak to seven. So you're intense, but in our one-on-ones that I'm not going to cancel or reschedule,
Right.
I get to speak your language from time to time. I get to get up from my desk because I know your quality minutes, and I hate quality minutes. But on Thursdays at 2:00, I'm gonna walk around and check on. I'm gonna send out an email to Sarah. It's on my calendar. She doesn't know it's on my calendar, but every third Thursday, I'm gonna say, "Hey, Sarah, wanted to reach out to you. You've been doing fantastic work. Really appreciate having you on the team." Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Do you find that the intense one is much less open to any of that coaching you just talked about?
No, they're
Really?
in my
They definitely get
words,
a bad rap, I would think.
every time I've met the intense at a training or on a
Yeah.
call, they are so thankful for this information because this is the first time they were told that they weren't bad
Ah,
or it was negative.
yeah, yeah,
When they hear me say the intense type of leader, people cringe, and I'm like, no, 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 no. There's 5 types of managers that are bad: the ego, the climber, the abuser, the friend, and the incompetent.
right, right.
But all of these leaders are good because the good part is the intense gets the job done.
Yeah, and isn't afraid to say the hard stuff and can have the
Right,
direct meetings and have the direct conversations. But I think
right,
everything you've been talking about today is, I'm so passionate about it because it really feels like it's all tools driven, right? Like it's not just I'm gonna say, hey, go do this and go figure it out. It's like once I have knowledge, once I have data, once I've had my employees take this test and I know that Sarah's affirmations and I know that John is this and the other thing, like that's such important data for me. Now I can, as long as I'm open to
right,
that, like I
right.
can now quickly figure out, because I have a quick little definition. Oh wait, what is that again? Great, let me approach this person in that way. And then here's the best part. I can only imagine that almost immediately you get different responses from people.
It is so immediate. The last part with the intense, you can also hire a buffer. So your direct report is a connector type. So they don't have to come to you, they can go to them, but you don't fire the connector because y'all have an agreement.
I love that. That's a good workaround.
But it is
Know
so
your limitations, right? And surround yourself with people who have what you don't have.
exactly.
Yeah.
So it is so immediate because when I do this in trainings and at conferences, and I go around the room, and you can't get everybody, and you get people to say their top 2. Everybody immediately sees how many differences are in the room. I said, now imagine in your company. Now here's a sheet.
Yeah.
You can email it to your people. You can slide it to them. They circle their top 2, hand it back. Do not ask if you're not serious about doing.
Right. Because then
Okay.
worse. It's like, wait,
I said,
there's a better way. You're not thinking about it.
if you're going to do this and that'd be like me going upstairs and asking my wife, what do you need most from me? And she says flowers every Tuesday. And I go,
Never buy her flowers again.
nah, I'll give you hugs on Thursdays. You'll be
Right?
fine.
It's like, why'd you even ask, man?
So watching their faces light up with this information, then handing it to their team. And then I say, listen, let's be realistic about it. You are not going to do this every day for every person. That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can pick one person a day. You can pick do 2 people a week. You can say, okay, on our one-on-ones, okay, this. And then I teach how to have it in casual conversations, emails, Zoom calls, walking through the office. But then how do you have it in tough conversations?
Right.
Once you're leading with their language, you always have their attention, and stop worrying about motivating them.
Yeah.
You want to hire motivated people and then lead them by being influential, impactful, and protecting them. And now when you speak their language, that's what you're doing.
Yeah. And now they're going to be loyal, right? They're going to want to be there. And for all my listeners, I really want you to, and I hope you have been doing this through the whole conversation, apply this to your own life. Like whether you're in corporate, whether you love your job, whether you're a leader, whether you're not a leader, like every single thing we've been talking about today, in my mind, comes down to how we show up in this world, right? Like every single thing you said are things that I can show up, even if I am a mom, and I'm a mom. So like I am trying to show up like that as a mom to my kids, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to learn how my kids best receive tough information, how they get motivated, how they get, all of those things. And knowing and understanding all the things we've been talking about, I think can only make every relationship in your life better and stronger. And most importantly, make you so much better. Like regardless, you don't have to be a leader to like have gotten all these nuggets, honestly.
Could you imagine if your kids knew your top 2 languages?
Yeah.
I do this at companies all the time. One of the VPs of HR, she was goodie time and recognition and affirmation. So what did she do? She brought in all of the goodies for everybody. And you know what they did? Oh, this is pepperoni pizza. Where's the sausage?
Yeah.
Oh, you got sausage pizza. Where's the hoagies? So if any of them knew that she was recognition and affirmation, they would have come to her and said, hey,
thanks so much for doing that.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much. So now every company, I say, have a board. You could put every employee's name, their top 2 languages, and then you change it accordingly. And then if you chart it out, look at the dynamic of your group. Maybe your incentives and respect, but everybody circled flexibility and goodie time.
Right. And then you realize, whoa, no wonder why everything I'm trying to roll out as a leader is not fucking working. Oh, now it makes a lot more sense. And I teach the same thing in or kind of very similar concept, I think, in teams, like coaches for athletic teams.
Yes.
If you knew that about your players, oh my God, all of a sudden, instead of like being the coach that yells and demeans and breaks everyone down and thinks like, oh, that's going to work for the whole group, like if you knew that one of your players was affirmations and all you did was tweak that a little bit for them, and all of a sudden, boom, they light up and they become the player you wanted them to be. Like, how does that, it just makes common sense for everybody involved. Like if I know how to talk to you, and by me learning that and doing that, it lights you up and brings out everything I wanted. It's self-serving at the end of the day. Like, why wouldn't we do that? We're going to get a way better reaction from everybody else too. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just like I'm giving. It is mutually beneficial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that. This has been, I do a lot of other like leadership trainings and speaking, but I do the Leader 7 at least 10 times a year on conferences and things like that. And it's interesting. If I advertise it, nobody cares. Right. But it's what I get asked to do the most. And I don't understand the difference. I'm like, maybe I'm marketing it wrong. I can't say it more simply, but it's odd that way.
I mean, I think like everything else, and I was telling you before we started 3 years ago, like during COVID, I kind of moved my coaching concepts into corporate. And at first I was like, kind of, how do I do this? How do I teach a totally different audience that these things are important, that it's important to know how to change your mindset. It's important to, like learn how to dream if you're a total thinker and you're used to being locked in your head, just all the stuff. Right. And I think it's one of those things that you almost have to go through it and have it explained for you, kind of the way that even our conversation, I was deep into your content before this, but in my mind, I'm translating, right? I'm like translating to the mom at home. I'm translating to my son who's on a football team. I'm translating to all these different scenarios. And to me, it's just like, why isn't everyone doing this? I'm really confused, because it's common sense. And I think as humans, we're involving in so many different ways, but man, we are leaving behind communication.
Yes.
We are turning that over to AI. We're turning it over to automatic stuff. I was
We are husbands and wives, husbands and husbands, wives and wives, theys and thems, texting each other from upstairs. So they have an issue in their relationship or argument, they're texting. We live in the same house.
I was no joke having this internal dialogue right before we got on our interview today, where I was talking to someone and I had just like shared, like actually had a conversation in text, like shared something personal, and what do I get back? An exclamation and a fucking heart. So I'm like, this is what technology has done to our communication skills. I am communicating something personal. I am opening up and sharing about myself. And what I get back is the most lazy, most unthought through, like we literally have turned off our ability to integrate and connect with each other. And that is the thing I think that is so powerful about what you do, and so powerful about this conversation, is because it's critical. And I feel like if we let this go for another 5 years, where are we going to be? Like, people don't know how to respond in a way that is like engaging, in a way that is like, I heard you, here's what I think. No, they're just liking their, whatever. And that ability is in every single form of communication. It's in our text, it's in social media. So there is no more interaction. And if we don't step up and say, hey, I want better. I want to teach my kids better. I want to teach them how to communicate with each other. And these skills are how we do that.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor sharing it with you. And I'm glad it's resonated so much. And you guys listening, I really hope that it's touched you as well and can be of impact for everybody around you.
Absolutely. I love it. And go grab Andre's books. I'm going to put the links to both of them here in the show notes as well. And you're an incredible motivational speaker and all of those amazing things. So if you're part of an organization that is struggling with this stuff, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's some simple tools you can, implement, and it can change everything. So I love that. Thanks so much for spilling all of your wisdom today with us, Andre. Thanks again for being on. All right, everybody, until next time, hustle and thrive.